back to the Fortitude podcast. We are your hosts, Sarah and
Micah.
And today we have an awesome guest with us. Her name is Katherine Wolf. She is a speaker. She's an advocate. She has a very powerful story.
Mm-hmm.
She's a wife, a mom. She does it all. And we're really excited for you to be with us today, Katherine. Thank you so much for being here.
So glad to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's just dive right in. I think, a lot of our listeners are probably not familiar with your story. So I would love to let them hear the goods from the horse's mouth. I don't want to share your story. I would love for you to kind of just share some of what you've been through with our listeners, and then we'll kind of go from there. With our goal with our podcast is really to help people know that they're not alone in whatever they're going through. Maybe we're not going through the same thing that they are, but whatever their struggle is, they're not alone in it. And there can be hope in any kind of difficulty. I think the enemy loves to make people feel like they're alone in their struggle. They're the only one having a hard time, the only one in a valley. And so our goal is to shed light on the fact that you're not alone in whatever you're going through.
Yes.
With that, would love to kind of dive into your story.
Absolutely. As a 26-year-old, fairly new wife and young mother with a 6-month-old baby in the next room, I had a massive brainstem stroke and very nearly died. I was entirely typically able-bodied before, with no medical history, no family history, no symptoms, nothing. No indication anything was wrong with my body. And I had what's called an AVM, which is actually a birth defect, an arterial venous malformation, it's called. And it was a collection of blood vessels that formed incorrectly in my mother's womb before I was even born. So I was born with this tiny little birth defect that grew and grew in my brainstem until that one April day when I was 26 years old. And since having the stroke, I should say, I slowly crawled my way back to life. I relearned to eat, speak, walk, everything. And as you can see, I don't know if the listener can see, a lot is different. As you can see, my face is paralyzed on one side, but even more significant than that, I have many, many lifelong difficulties. I use a wheelchair. I don't drive a car. My eyes don't track. I'm deaf in one ear. I have a hand that doesn't work, that has no fine motor control. So I have a number of ongoing physical disabilities for sure, but I've also gone on to have a second biological child, born in 2015, and been able to do some really incredible stuff. My husband and I founded our nonprofit, faith-based nonprofit, Hope Heals. And I get to speak and write a lot. We have an incredible camp for families where someone has a disability. And most recently, we've opened a coffee shop where we employ people with disabilities.
Oh, cool.
And we just have a lot of really cool opportunities to encourage people around belonging and belovedness, regardless of how their body works, through our disability advocacy work. And we like to say we're creating sacred spaces. We're always creating sacred spaces for people who don't have spaces to belong.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching the video of your guys' camp, and I was crying because I was like, this looks so powerful and special, and I can just relate so much to the families that were in this video just because my brother had a disability, and so that is just beyond special. But kind of going back to your story, how long had you been married when you had the stroke?
Just over 3 years.
Okay. I mean, talk about in sickness and in health, like, the things that we say when we're getting married that we're like, yeah, like that'll be later, maybe never, I don't know, it's just like as humans, it's easy to be like, I'm always going to be healthy and kind of take that for granted. What was like, well, maybe I should first ask, how long was your recovery process to being like to where you were alert, aware again? Like what did that look like?
Oh, goodness. So I was on life support in a coma-like state for the first 40 days.
Okay.
But even after those initial 40 days, I did not fully wake up and have any memory for the first 2.5 months. So for the first 2.5 months, there's no memories. And then slowly I began waking up in month 3.
Yeah. Did you have a strong faith before you had the stroke?
Did. Thankfully, I can't imagine how I would have gotten through this without my faith.
Yeah.
From the time I was a young child, I've had a deep faith that has informed my life. And I went to a small Christian college, met my husband, a pastor's son, and together we've had a lot of wonderful community through the years of just getting married, having a baby, that early married life. We were very supported. So we were set up for when I had a stroke to have a tremendous community really pouring into us and uplifting us through tragedy.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge because when we're going through something like that, it is much more difficult to go it alone. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I like to say that we can bear our burdens when we share our burdens, because I
Yeah.
think that's it, that we have to do it together, that
Yeah.
somebody needs to hold up my arms because I don't believe this right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when you started to have memory and be more aware again, do you like what was your mindset at the beginning? Like were you immediately hopeful, like I'm gonna recover, I'm gonna get stronger, I'm gonna make progress, or like what was that journey like for you mentally?
It was really complicated. I'd love to say it was immediately, yeah, I'm going to get well, but it definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
I really wrestled with why I was still on earth. It
Mm,
felt like my body did not work, so I did not fit in this world anymore.
mm,
But heaven didn't want me either. So I felt like neither side really wanted me
mm,
because my body was very broken and did not fit, and yet I didn't die. So I felt really caught between life and death,
mm,
and it was horrific. I mean, in my lowest moments, I really wondered, did God make a mistake here? Should I
mm,
have died?
mm,
Like, I want my husband to remarry. I want my baby to have a quote unquote normal mommy, and
mm,
I'm not supposed to be here. And I really came to a place of recognition that if I should have died, I would have died.
mm,
And I'm supposed to be on earth. And if I am supposed to be here, then I'm supposed to be here in whatever state my body is in, regardless of what I can do. What is unchangeable is the soul. And there are things that can never be taken away no matter what happens to us. And I think I began to cultivate an anti-fragile soul because I had to, because I had a fragile body that got messed up really bad. So it was time to recognize that my soul is not that fragile.
mm. Wow, that's powerful because that's so, if we haven't experienced something like that, it is so, I don't even know if it's possible to fully grasp just how fragile our bodies are
Right.
and how, and even like putting our hope and our just like having Jesus really be enough, I think is very difficult in our modern worlds. And what a powerful way to that you are building a not fragile soul because that's the only part of us that does kind of
Right.
carry on. That's
Yeah,
just so
I
powerful.
actually
Yeah.
that everything in the world teed me up to believe my body was not that fragile at all.
Right.
Everything in the world teed me up to believe that my soul was very fragile.
Mm,
That those two were not at all and very much, that I had to be coddled my whole life. I couldn't do hard things, but at the same time, I'm invincible and my body's unbreakable. But actually, the complete opposites were the truth. that my body was in fact fragile and my soul was not. So it was the opposite of what I understood.
Mm.
Wow. And that's just so, I think that's so accurate to the whole idea of like walking with Jesus is like, it's actually upside down to what we're often taught and what the world teaches.
Absolutely. 100% yes.
Was there like a turning point of feeling like kind of like hopelessness to then being hopeful again? Like you said, it's like, okay, there must be a reason why I'm alive. Was there a person, or was there just kind of like a breakthrough that happened for you, or was like how? And also this, I guess, a little bit of a two-parter. How was your relationship been affected, whether it's positive, or negative, or because I'm sure that something like this, anything that happens like this can be kind of like a big moment in a relationship with a marriage and with a kid.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll answer the first part first.
Yeah.
Which, tell me that part again, so I just focus
Yeah,
on.
I know. I that was my bad. I should know better to do a two-parter. The first one was, was there ever was there like a moment or a turning point where your mindset went from like, okay, there must be a reason why I'm on this earth, why I didn't die. So now I'm going to change it, shift it to now being hopeful and looking towards what I can do with my life now, because it must be a bigger purpose for it.
Absolutely. So yes, definitely. After I had failed my 11th swallowing test, I began to wonder if I'm supposed to be on Earth. So yeah, there definitely the fall of 2008. So around 6 months after the stroke, I kind of, as I shared a bit before, just began to really thinking, marinating on the reality that this all must be some terrible cosmic mistake. If God is even real, where is he? What happened? Like, what have I ever done? Like, all the questions. And eventually, in that almost like frantic, like searching, I just have this vivid memory of kind of the mind shifting to wait. Think about what you believe logically. If you did not die and you are here, then you are supposed to be here in whatever state your body is in. So if I'm here at this intersection of time and space, then God sees me fit of being here in this body and taking up that space and time, actually, right here. This is it. And I, from that place, reasoned, and if I'm supposed to be here, then I have purpose. I believe if you have a pulse, you have a purpose, that God is saying, this is it. Because the reality is, this body is the only interface we are ever going to have with existence. Did you ever think of that? It's kind of wild. Like, this is it. So if this is it, we might as well use what we've got.
Yeah.
So I think there was a shift in that. I'm not going to wait to be healed, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a thing, actually. The physical healing is like whatever. Some get, some don't. But why not be living life, not waiting for healing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people listening to this, and like that have gone through way less than what you've gone through and have still felt the weight of like, why am I here on earth? I think that's a very like human question in existence of like, what is my purpose? And for those who are struggling with that and struggling with depression and just kind of that sense of purposelessness, I think that's very powerful for people to hear your story, where it's like, hey, I'm assuming for you, with what I'm gathering, it was just like a shift of, okay, I can either just continue to sit here and kind of, I guess, wallow in hopelessness and powerlessness and these things. But if I am living, there must be a reason why, and there got to be a bigger and as a believer, there's got to be a bigger purpose for my life. God has a purpose for my life. I don't necessarily know what that is at this moment, but there has to be there must be some reason. So I'm going to choose. There is a choice there. Choose to believe that and then move forward in my life and make strides in whatever way that is, and just believe that God is going to open doors and God is going to kind of guide and direct in that path. And so you have the ability, whoever's listening to this that needs to hear this, you have the ability to just make that choice. And I mean, did it just because and it doesn't mean that just because you make that choice one day and it feels good that day, that every day is going to feel great either. I'm sure you had moments where it's like you made the shift and it's like, okay, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to feel hope. I'm going to feel like I know that there's a bigger purpose. And you had good days and then you had other days where it felt like, oh man, this is hard. And maybe, and there's some dips. That's human, right? That's okay. And so I just think that's a very powerful message for everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. Basically, it boils down to, are we going to take responsibility for our own lives? Wherever they are, whatever is going on, are we going to say, hey, this is not at all like I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to keep living my life regardless of what happens to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then the second parter,
Yes.
the second parter was, how has your relationship kind of been affected, whatever way that is, because I'm sure like something like this that happens, anything when it comes to like health issues, just in a relationship, in a marriage, as a father, as a wife, as a mother, it gets affected in some way or the other. I saw, just like, and I didn't even get to meet your brother, but I've just seen kind of the fruit in a way from your parents' relationship, kind of that's come from it, because it kind of goes one way or the other. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where it's like, whether it's like a death in the family or like a really critical illness or something that either breaks the family or mends or it gets them, like it makes them come even closer. So we're just kind of interested to hear your side of things on that.
Oh, absolutely. So my husband and I have been married 20 years now. So 17 years since the stroke, and we're still going. I don't think we're gonna, end up together for the rest of our lives. I don't say that too arrogantly, though. I know horrible things happen, but we're not planning on going anywhere.
Yeah.
I like to say he wanted to stick around for this party. The truth is, my therapist has identified that early in our marriage, because we'd only been married 3 years, we really trauma bonded in a good way. So plenty of trauma bonding can be very negative. You can bond with your abuser. I mean, there can be horrible. There could also be a trauma bonding that happens when there's tragedy when you're early married, because it informs the way you live the rest of your life. Of course it does. The deep suffering impacts you tremendously, and it did us. It informed how we've lived post-stroke, and we don't take things for granted, and we just are very much aware that we don't know what tomorrow holds, and are going to live for today in a very beautiful way. And hopefully we let the little things go and laugh at life. Not always. We have 2 kids, can't always do that. And we're kind of a team. And I think that many times can happen in disability stories. Maybe your parents are an example of this. You're kind of on a team together, doing it, living it.
That is, again, it's just like a choice. I feel like to lean into how suffering can actually make you stronger. And it's, I think again, our world is very much just like your life is supposed to be easy. when that is not the truth,
Right.
especially if we're walking with Jesus, and he literally tells us that it's not going to be easy.
Yeah,
That
seriously. In this world, you will have trouble, it says in John 16:33, but take heart, he's overcome the world.
Exactly, exactly. But it's a choice every day to sort of decide that, like, yes, I'm suffering through something right now, but there's going to be some good that comes out of it. God is going to use it, and maybe it's not going to be in the way that I think. Maybe my prayer is not going to be answered the way that I want it to be answered, or in the timing I want it to be answered in, but I
Right.
guarantee he's going to use it. Did you ever, like, when you were in that recovery, like, what was your prayer life like? Did you ever struggle with, like, you're not answering my prayers the way that I think you should? Or I just think when we're in a deep valley and we're praying, it can be hard when we feel like our prayers aren't getting answered, but it can also be a strengthener of our faith when we see how they can be answered, but in ways that we maybe weren't expecting.
Absolutely. I think to this day, the prayer life is full of, Lord, change this or that, because that's life and we're human. And I heard recently from a brilliant counselor who I know, love, and follow, Dan Allender. I don't know if y'all have ever tuned into the voice of Dan Allender. He's an incredible thinker, thought leader, just Christian counselor. And he writes that everything east of Eden is trauma. Everything. Everything needs to be eaten. So lifelong, there are many, many things for us all to pray about, because nothing is as it should be in this broken world. So I think then and now there are prayers of, Lord, what are you doing? Lord, help me live into what you are doing, and help me pivot into the story you are writing through my life.
Wow.
Did you ever go through a period where you were angry with God at all?
It's hard to know if it was truly anger. There was very much shock and horror that this could happen to me. I was born and raised to believe I could do anything, and I was invincible, and life came easy to me. I had pleasures and comfort and access. And all of a sudden, I had a massive stroke and became a person living with profound disabilities. You know, they say the disability community is perhaps the only minority group in the world that one can enter at any time.
Yes.
You become a member of.
Yes.
Instantly. And I would agree. And it's been crazy. And it's been otherworldly to figure out how to live into this new reality. So I think that the anger and the shock of it all has to be a part of the grieving process. I think that true lament is what we are called to as believers, and God longs for us to really feel things. And before we can ever begin to heal or grow from our deep losses, we have to mourn those deep losses. We have to be about feeling the sadness and the shock and the anger and the deep, like, I don't think I can live anymore. I don't think I'm going to get through this. And let us feel that and start there, because I believe you won't stay there, but you must start there.
Wow. That's kind of along those same lines. Because you must have felt like correct me if I'm wrong, but like you missed out on some of those early parts of your first son's life.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my word. From when he was 6 months old to 3 years, I couldn't be his primary caretaker. So there are still deep wounds in that. He is 17 now and about to go to college. And very viscerally, I feel like, but it's not time. I missed those years. So you need to stay in my house for longer. I mean, I've talked to my therapist about it. It's a deep, visceral feeling of, wait, I missed out when you were a baby and a toddler, and I don't want to miss any more years with you. So it's very sad. And I think that even being on the verge of tears in this moment is actually very real. Very
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's still pain in this story. All is not well.
Mm-hmm.
Everything isn't okay now. Everything hasn't been restored.
Mm-hmm.
Life has gone on in such a beautiful, incredible way. But there are wounds turned to scars that are still here and that have stayed in the story that I believe will be lifelong.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be less painful on one day. I'm 17 years in and it's still painful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's going to be lifelong.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's so much, again, like we live in a broken world. And so the idea that when we go through something tragic, it's just eventually going to be behind us completely, I think is just totally unrealistic because those things, they do create scars and it changes who we are and how we perceive the world around us. Um, and so I think the concept that I've heard you talk about in some of like on your own podcast is like there can be joy even when everything is not okay. Like
Right.
and everything may never be okay, quote unquote. But there can still be great joy and God can still use us
Right.
in amazingly huge ways, even when everything is never going to be okay. Again, using air quotes again. Is that a mindset that you've just always had, or is that something you had to develop, or where did
I
that? Because
definitely
that's a
have,
powerful way of thinking.
yeah, I really had to cultivate that deep truth because that is the truth. And of course, on some level, we all know that, but we want to reject it, of course, that
Mm-hmm.
good things and hard things can coexist. And of
Mm.
course they do. We're on earth.
Yeah.
Of course, it's fallen. We are living not in heaven right now. And yet there's a sense where, wait, hard things can't be part of a good story.
Mm.
And that isn't true. Hard things are most definitely a part of the good stories of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I've had to really redefine that. And you're right. That's what my podcast is all about. The good hard story is just that. Identifying it's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Things are both good and hard at the very same time.
Yeah. Is that now with your sons, I feel like you must be, as I always think about like wanting to raise, we are a son, he's 8 months old, and I always think about like how to raise him to be mentally strong and to know those truths.
Yep.
So I like, what has it been like for you with trying to instill those things in your two sons?
Seriously, it's been a journey. We desperately want to teach our two boys that they can do hard things. They are capable because of Jesus in their story.
Mm-hmm.
They can do very hard things, and He will supply all of their needs.
Mm.
He is with them in the hard things they go through, that they can do the thing, which is a huge problem in our world. People feel very incapable, and when Jesus is in the story, you are capable. But we're teaching them that it's a really good story that God is writing, that they can do hard things ultimately in a very good story because it's both. As I was saying before, it's a good hard story. That they can do hard things, but it's a very, very good story. Romans 8:28 is true. That somehow it all works for good. We just don't see it yet.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that your sons have primarily learned that through watching you and your husband? I feel like kids are just, they're so observant and
Yeah,
we can say whatever we want to say, but really they're kind of looking at what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing on a daily basis.
totally. I hope so. I definitely hope. I pray so. I think so. I guess
Yeah.
TBD. We don't know yet. TBD.
To be determined.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because I mean, I think even as adults, to be honest, like I don't know if that changes as much. Like actions are so much more powerful than words, and I know that that's a pretty cliche saying, but it's a very true one. Where if your actions are not aligning with your words, then I don't even hear what you're saying. It's because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You're not walking what you're talking. And so So I'm sure just like watching what you guys how you guys have handled this and is so, I mean, I honestly so powerful and so valuable for your kids just to watch that. And I'm sure they're going to grow up with those values that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. We'll see, but
Yeah.
definitely trying.
Yeah.
Definitely trying.
So, how did your like the advocacy work that you do, your camp, your nonprofit, like when how did that all was that something that you knew immediately you wanted to do or like how did that come to be?
Yeah. So it wasn't right away. It was 5 years later, which I always feel like is so important to say, is that many times when there's tragedy, if somebody wakes up the next morning and wants to write a book and talk about it and do all these things, it's not time yet.
For sure.
You need time to process and heal and then come up for air.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did 5 years after the stroke. So I had the stroke in 2008, and in 2013 we launched Topials.
Wow.
And is the camp like is Hope Heals or is camp a part of the Hope Heals or is that a separate thing?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it is. Hope Heals Camp is
Oh, okay.
a part of Hope Heals, and just this incredible outpouring of people from all over the country who come to Alabama for a week-long summer just respite from their lives. It's a 1-to-1 buddy ratio for our friends experiencing disability. And we have any diagnosis, any age, any stage, welcome at our camp. And it's completely free. So it's pretty amazing. We think we may be the only camp like this in the entire world, providing this model at no cost to the camper.
I mean, that's incredible. I didn't realize it was free.
Yeah, it's free. We fundraise all year.
That's amazing.
Can you, because I think if you have not been like having a front row seat to disability, it's very easy to have no idea how difficult it can sometimes be to move through the world when you have a disability because the world is not designed for disability.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that kind of like learning process for you?
Absolutely. So, yeah, the world is not made for you when you live your life using a wheelchair or adaptive devices. And I think that's one reason we felt so passionately about our coffee shop is it's highly universally designed, which means it's designed for people using wheelchairs. To experience the deep rest and relaxation of a space that is made for you that we all take for granted. Spaces where you can get through the door, which is so hard when you're living in a wheelchair, unless there is an electronic door, which we have on our coffee shop. And it's really a tragedy how so many spaces are not universally designed when actually it's called the curb cutout effect, that in fact making spaces more universally designed benefits all of society. For instance, when a curb is made for a wheelchair, everyone benefits. From a person with balance issues to a mother pushing a stroller to someone using a walker, that everyone benefits from things being more accessible.
Is the reason, I'm assuming, like the reason why places and there isn't more of that accessibility and I guess renovations to make it more accessible, is it just a money thing? It's just it's expensive, right?
Money, absolutely money. It's actually a tragedy. ADA, which does help, it's not perfect, but it does help. I guess I should say the churches in America were given exemption from having to implement ADA laws in the 70s, which is so incredibly shocking and horrifying because churches should obviously be the most welcoming place to people living with disabilities, but somehow they got exempt from it on their taxes.
That's Wild. Yeah, and
I,
that doesn't make any sense.
I didn't realize that.
Very, very disturbing. I don't think that's the only time the church has been on the wrong side of history. I will say, and I think decidedly we can claim that that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know it can. I mean,
So
again,
you may get some hate mail because of that comment. I love
Oh,
the church. It's amazing. I'm obsessed with the church, but we haven't always done the right thing, guys. Let's be
no.
honest.
that's just the truth.
That's just the truth. If you get hate mail for that, then somebody is living under a rock.
Yeah.
It's it's like, it's the thing is like the church is run by sinful, broken people. So it's like it's all not everybody's going to be perfect. The church isn't perfect, and there's definitely history to prove that that's not the case.
Yes.
There are good churches. There are churches that probably are not as good when it comes to
Totally.
doing the right thing. So that's just the truth, and that's the truth in any establishment. To be honest, there are good doctors. There are bad doctors. There are good, people doing the right things. Politically, there are things there are people doing not good things politically and doing what's
Yeah,
so
totally.
that's the case across the board there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I have one more
Sure.
thing I would love for you to
Yeah,
touch
totally.
on, and that's kind of the concept of like an intrinsic joy that comes from Jesus versus happiness, because I think that we're taught to chase happiness, but happiness is so fleeting and so temporary. How have you been able to kind of cultivate that joyfulness, because you have such a joyful spirit about you,
Right. Right.
and so like how have you been able, have you had to work to cultivate that?
Absolutely. Um, in 1,000 ways, and I'm always in process on it. But the reality is, there is so much to be grateful for in our stories, even when there is things that are lost and messed up and not okay. There is still significant joy to be found in what remains. So I cultivate a lot of gratitude for what is in this story and how God is moving in this story. I like to say that it's not all just collateral damage. There is collateral damage, but in that damage, can we see the collateral gifts? Can we find the gifts of the fallout? And can we cultivate gratitude for what remains in the wreckage? And I think that is what we are called to do, is to find all the good stuff. I mean, I have so much incredibly good stuff in my life if I have eyes to see it that way. Because the truth is, you get to decide how you feel about your story. No one else gets to decide that for you. That is decidedly up to you, of what are you going to do with this life.
Wow, that is
Mic drop.
yeah, that is you can take that to the bank. That's a great place to end on. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your story and everything that you shared. I just think that if people really did listen, this is for everyone. And that just that last line was really getting to me, because it's so true. It's really your decision. Can you say what you said again? I'm like trying to think. I don't want to misquote you. You were saying like,
Not sure what the last part was, but I said you get to decide how you feel about your story. No
that's
one
it.
else does. Was that what I said?
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it right there. I'm glad. I needed you to repeat it for the back row, because that's so true. It is total not. It's an excuse if you are saying that somebody else is deciding your story, or somebody else is deciding who you are, because you're choosing to believe it. And it really does come down to you believing, and choosing your story and believing your story, and writing your own. So thank you so much, Katherine, for everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about the camp, more about the coffee shop?
Everything is through our website, Hope Heals. Everything links there, Hope Heals. That's all the socials is Hope Heals, and the podcast is the Good Hard Story Podcast. So tune in.
Okay,
Perfect.
awesome.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
link it all in the show notes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much for being here. This was a really powerful episode.
Yes.
There's a lot here. So thank you so much, Katherine. We appreciate it.
God bless y'all. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Bye.